Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are going to explore something we often see every day, but may not always stop to think about: architecture. Now, when many people hear the word art, they imagine paintings, drawings, or sculptures in museums. But did you know that architecture is a kind of art too? It's the art that surrounds us, shelters us, and shapes the places where we live our lives. Buildings are not just structures made of wood, brick, stone, glass, or steel. They are expressions of ideas. They show us what people value, how they solve problems, and how they want others to feel in a space. As we go through this lesson, think about the buildings you know best: your home, your school, barns, churches, stores, and even libraries. Each one was designed by someone, and every design choice tells part of a story. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Miss Bree. I'm an educator, a farmer, an illustrator, a singer, and a proud grammar nerd. Welcome to the Farm School. Now, architecture is both an art and a science. It combines three important ideas: design, or how something is planned; purpose, or what it is meant to do; and beauty, or how it looks and feels. A building has to work well. It must stand up safely, protect people from the weather, and serve its purpose. However, architecture is more than simple construction. It's also about shape, proportion, materials, light, color, and the feeling a place creates. That is what makes architecture so special. It's art we do not just look at, it's art we live in. Architecture is a powerful form of expression. A building can communicate ideas about culture, religion, power, identity, even creativity. Some buildings feel calm and peaceful. Others feel grand and impressive. Some feel warm and welcoming like a hug, while others feel modern, bold, or even just mysterious. That happens because architects make choices. They choose the height of a room, the way light enters, the shape of windows, the texture of walls, and the materials that are used. All of those things affect how we experience a space. In that way, architecture is like storytelling in stone, wood, glass, or steel, as opposed to words. Architecture has changed over time because people's needs, values, and technologies have also changed. Long ago, early people built shelters mainly just for safety and survival. However, over time, buildings became more complex and meaningful. Ancient civilizations, like the ancient Egyptians and Mayans and Aztecs, created temples, tombs, palaces, and public spaces that reflected their beliefs and achievements. As history moved forward, architecture continued to evolve. Different eras developed different styles, and each one tells us something about the people who built them. When we study architecture across time, we are really studying history through the buildings people left behind. Now, classical architecture comes mainly from ancient Greece and ancient Rome. This style is known for balance, symmetry, columns, proportion, and order. Classical architects believed that beauty could be created through mathematics and harmony. Buildings were often carefully designed so that one side matched the other and every part felt balanced. Columns became one of the most recognizable features of this style. They were not only useful for support, but also symbols of elegance and strength. Even today, many government buildings, museums, and schools still use features inspired by classical architecture. That's because this style continues to represent stability, dignity, and timeless beauty. Next, we have medieval architecture. This was developed during a time when buildings needed to provide strength and safety, as well as spiritual meaning. Two important kinds of medieval buildings were castles and cathedrals. Now, castles were built for defense. They often had thick stone walls, towers, gates, and strong outer barriers. However, cathedrals were built to inspire awe and reverence. They often included tall ceilings, pointed arches, stained glass windows, detailed stone carvings, and so many more things. These buildings were meant to make people feel something powerful, either protected, humbled, or inspired. Medieval architecture reminds us that buildings are not only practical, they can also shape emotions and reflect the priorities of a whole society. Modern architecture, however, has taken a very different direction. Instead of focusing heavily on decoration, many modern architects wanted buildings to be simpler, cleaner, more open, and more functional. Modern design often uses materials like glass, steel, and concrete. It tends to emphasize clean lines and open spaces. In many modern buildings, the structure itself becomes part of the design. This style asks an important question. What if beauty comes from simplicity, purpose, and honesty in materials? Modern architecture teaches us that art does not always have to be ornate or highly decorated. Sometimes beauty comes from clarity and thoughtful design. When people think of architecture, they often imagine cities. But did you know that architecture is just as important in rural places and on farms? Farm architecture includes barns, silos, coops, greenhouses, sheds, even farmhouses. These buildings are often designed to work with the land. They may use local materials like wood or stone, and they are often built with purpose in mind, either sheltering animals, storing tools, protecting crops, or just creating a comfortable living space. But practical does not mean plain. You might have a red barn against a green field, a weathered wooden fence, or a farmhouse porch facing the sunrise. All of these things can be deeply beautiful. Farm architecture shows us that usefulness and beauty can live together. There are many different types of architecture as well, and each one serves a different purpose. For example, residential architecture includes homes and apartments. Commercial architecture includes stores, offices, and businesses. Religious architecture includes churches, temples, mosques, and synagogues. Agricultural architecture includes barns, silos, and animal shelters. And public architecture includes schools, libraries, museums, and even government buildings. Each type must meet specific needs. A school should support learning, of course. A library should feel thoughtful and welcoming. A barn should protect animals and tools. However, every single one of these buildings can also be artistic. And that is one of the most exciting things about architecture. It can be both deeply practical and deeply expressive at the same time. Now, architecture affects us more than we may realize. The spaces we live and learn in can influence our mood, our concentration, our comfort, our creativity, and even our sense of safety. A bright, open room may feel cheerful and energizing. A quiet, cozy space might feel calming. A huge stone building may feel powerful or serious. And this means that architecture is not just about how a building looks from the outside. It's also about the experience of being inside it. Architects have to think carefully about how people will feel when they enter, move through, and use a space. Good design can support learning, rest, creativity, or community. Architects are a special kind of artist. Instead of using paint or clay, they use space, structure, materials, light, and shapes. They imagine places before they even exist. Then they plan them carefully so that they can become real. This takes creativity, but it also takes skill and knowledge. Architects must think about beauty, but they also must think about engineering, safety, and how people will actually use the building. That is why architecture is both an artistic and technical field. Architects are the designers of the world around us. Buildings can tell us a great deal about culture. Building architecture often reflects things like climate, local materials, history, beliefs, traditions, and values. For example, a building in a hot climate might be designed for shade and airflow, but a building in a cold climate may be designed to hold heat. Religious buildings often express spiritual beliefs through shape, decoration, and light. Homes reflect the ways families and communities live. In this way, architecture becomes a record of culture. By studying buildings, we can learn about the people who made them and the world they lived in. So now it's your turn to think like an architect. So imagine designing a space of your own. It could be a dream home, a school, a library, a farm building, even an animal shelter. As you imagine it, ask yourself, what is this building for? Who will use it? How should people feel inside? What materials would I choose? And how can it be both useful and beautiful? This challenge reminds us that architecture always begins with ideas. Every real building once only existed in someone's imagination. So let's bring everything we learned together. Today we learned that architecture is more than construction. It's a form of art, a reflection of history, and a way of shaping human experience. Buildings express ideas, culture, and emotion. They serve important purposes, but they can also be beautiful and meaningful. The next time you walk into a building, try to look at it with new eyes. Look at it through an art point of view. Notice the shape, the materials, the light, and the feeling it creates. You may realize that you are not just entering a building. You are stepping inside of a piece of art. Remember, architecture is just art that we live in. So as you go through your day each day, I want you to start paying attention to all the buildings around you. Ask yourself, what style is this? How does this space make me feel? Why do you think it might have been built this way? What does it tell me about the people who use it? Your home, your school, a barn, a church, a library, even just a shed can become a lesson in design, culture, and creativity. Architecture is everywhere, and once you start noticing it, you begin to see the world differently. Thank you for exploring architecture with me today. I really hope this lesson helps you see buildings in a new way, not just as places we use, but as works of art that shape our lives every day. Keep looking closely, asking questions, and noticing the beauty in the world around you. You might discover that art is not only hanging on the walls, it might be the walls. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.